Hey, what's going on, fam? So another quick video. I just want to talk about the Trump-Ukraine phone call and the impeachment scandal surrounding it. The main reason why I want to talk about it is really just to forewarn black people, especially my ADOS, FBA, Foundational Black American crowd. And that's that do not be distracted or fooled by this latest political stunt that's going on, that's being performed by the media, mostly liberal Democrat media and their politicians. Because the first and main reason why we should not be distracted by it is all we have to do is look back at the Russia thing that happened for 2 years and produced nothing. For 2 years, we had to sit up and watch the Democrats produce this whole political theater and even rope black people or implicate black people in this so-called crime that occurred, where instead of Hillary losing because of the polite racism and benign neglect towards Democrats' most loyal voter base, which is black people, instead of acknowledging that that had finally built up and backfired on the Democrats, starting with the 2016 election, and again, not to the degree we would like, because still, black people, a lot of black people did vote for Hillary, but enough of us, a critical mass of enough of us, were awoke enough by the 2016 election to realize that voting for the Democrats is doing nothing for us at this point, especially after 8 years of a black president. Voting for Democrats is not producing us anything tangible or anything worth anything that changes our lives in any meaningful way. A lot of black people realize that, and we know that they went through this whole 2 year nonstop hearings, nonstop news reports, nonstop breaking news, along with all of the endless snarky remarks, insults, mockeries of Trump. 2 years of this stuff, jokes about it, but jokes that are supposed to be funny because they have rings of truth in them about Trump colluding with Russia. All of these portrayals of Mueller as this superhero investigator and Trump as this klutzy idiot criminal, all of it to result in nothing. For this dude to do 2 years of investigation and not be able to provide a single modicum of proof, a single modicum of doing of anything that's worth pursuing as far as action against Trump. You did 3 years of this. 3 years of blaming black people who wouldn't vote for Hillary as their Russian agents. We all know the ADOS movement, when we first got started, we were accused of being Russian bots. So everything was Russia, 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 Russia. And any black person who didn't go along with the Democrats was also Russia, 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 Russia. Influenced by Russia, Russian bots, blah, blah, blah. We all know this. Angela Ree, all these people. We all Russians, right? And all of this Russian hoax stuff basically came to nothing because there was no impeachment of Trump, no charges pressed against him, nothing to affect his presidency, even though that was supposedly the ultimate end game of this investigation, was not to prosecute Manafort or these other people around Trump, but to actually prosecute and prove Trump illegally stole the election by colluding with a foreign power to sabotage Hillary Clinton. And we all know, looking back, or we should know looking back, that that was a hoax, because if it wasn't, they should have been able to come up with something. It should have been they should have been able to come up with something more real than um, what they came up with, which is we could not exonerate Trump, which I already broke that down in my Mueller hoax video. That could not exonerate. That's just legal trick words to say that Trump's innocent, but make it sound like he's guilty. But anyway, so with that being said, that's really the main reason why we should not be overly focused on this Trump Ukraine stuff. Because and let me say that, even though I say all that, I don't know if Trump actually did something that's worth impeachment as in this phone call. I don't know for sure, because if you watch Republican media, they're saying Trump did absolutely nothing wrong. But if you watch Democratic media, he did everything wrong and he's going to be impeached. But remember, Trump was going to be impeached with the Russia thing, and then that never came to anything. So again, this feels like another way to, because Trump has been made into such a caricature, such a demonization, and also as a distraction tool from actually addressing the real issues. what this is going to do is this is going to allow the Democrats to just focus on, especially as far as this ADOS and Foundational Black American crowd is concerned, our Congressional Black Caucus and our so-called black politicians. All they're going to do for liberal points is scream impeachment for the next 6 months, and that's going to somehow be a convenient excuse to not address reparations. If we still bring up reparations and say, hey, we still have a black agenda, no matter what you're doing with Trump, people are going to say, see, you're selfish. This proves that you're in the pocket of Trump. Why can't you just, stand up for the greater good of the country? Because that's what matters is Trump needs to get it removed. Because remember, again, when we fight for reparations and we say that we're not going to vote if we don't get reparations, we're not going to vote for any Democrat, and we're not going to vote, period, if we don't get reparations. The threat is, oh, you're going to let Trump win. Oh, there are things more important than Trump winning. Oh, you'll never get reparations from Democrats, but you'll never get them from Trump either. So the most important thing is just voting for Democrats so Trump doesn't win. So we've already seen this with just impeachment aside. We've already seen these talking points just with the election. So now, with them trying to accuse Trump of some sort of crime, they're really going to ratchet up the Trump is the priority, and somehow we can't do both at the same time. Even though, trust me, they're going to do other groups' policy. They're still going to do immigration policy at the same time. They're still going to do LGBTQ policy at the same time. They're still going to do white liberal class policy at the same time. But they can't do any sort of black policy because Trump's getting impeached, and that's what's most important. And we, as black people, should be the most grateful and the most happy because Trump's the big bag racist. And that's all I'm saying, fam. It's just a real logical conversation with y'all. Just to let you know, don't be overly fooled by this. Also, look at some of the other red flags. Congressman Adam Schiff, who is a high-ranking Democrat in the House Intelligence Community, a representative from California, or a representative of the state of California, he already got on TV and read quote-unquote parody, which he did not say it was a parody. He just said this was the essence of what Trump said, which it turned out to not be the essence of what he said. But he read a so-called parody of Trump's phone call, where Trump sounded like a mafia boss saying, basically, if you don't do this, um, you know, then something unfortunate is going to happen to your country, something along those lines. But it turned out to be totally untrue. And now the same congressman has come back and said it was a parody. And let me just also focus on that, family. A congressional hearing about the president committing a crime is not the time to crack jokes or do a parody, especially in the context where the dude sounded very, very serious about what he was saying. It did not sound like a joke. It did not sound like a parody. And what I'm actually going to do is put an article talking about this so-called parody, a link in the description box. It was just so inappropriate. At a congressional hearing, you do not read in a calm voice where you crack no smiles, you do not laugh, so you come off as very serious, reading so-called a transcript copy of Trump's call, where you totally lie about it. Then you have to come back and say that it was a joke, it was a parody of what he said, which tells me, which is already a red flag, that this is not a serious thing, that this is just more political theater. That's red flag number one. Red flag number two is the other side of this, and that's the Democrat side, Joe Biden's side, where Joe Biden is accused of basically giving his son a hookup because his son is the son of rich white man, privileged white racist Joe Biden. He can get jobs making millions of dollars a year with no qualifications, which is white supremacy, which is why, again, ADOS need reparations. But you won't see the media ever talking about or even acknowledging what Trump, or not really, they do acknowledge it, but not enough, not in a serious way. Where the Democrat liberal media, MSNBC, CNN, they are totally trying to tell you that it's completely untrue when we know in the system of white supremacy, that's how white people make it in life a lot of times. Is they have hookups, connections with their familial connections that hook them up with success and prosperity. It's not because they just work so much harder than us. Yeah, some white people do work harder and make their way, a legit way without a hookup from dad or mom. I'm not saying that all white people get their money from nepotism, but a lot of white people do. A whole lot of white people do. And a lot of these CEOs, white executives, white managers, all these white people in these well-paying positions that look like they've made a decent life for themselves, 50% or more of them only got that job not because of their qualifications, but because of who they know and who they were related to. Yet black people are told the reason why we're in our condition is simply because we don't work hard, not because we were put in a disadvantaged position where white people were allowed to have all the wealth and start all the businesses and then continue for generation after generation to this day, place their own family members and friends in positions to make a good life for themselves. And the fact that the media is saying that this is totally, I read a CNN article that said it's totally baseless. It's a conspiracy theory. It's a hoax. These are CNN, MSNBC, these people saying that it's a hoax, right? And also they'll tell you that if anyone tells you that it's not a hoax, it's usually the Republican biased Fox News, which I believe Fox News is Republican biased. But what I want to do is I want to play a clip from ABC News, because ABC News is not Fox News. ABC News is not Blaze Media or Breitbart. ABC News, if anything, will be considered a liberal media outlet. It's on the same level as CNN or MSNBC. And we know MSNBC or CNN would never accuse ABC of being in the tank of Trump or being an illegitimate news organization. So what I want to do is I want to play a clip, a real quick clip. I'm tongue-tied. Quick clip from ABC News about this Hunter Biden side of this that nobody except Republican media will even acknowledge as a possibility. So here we go.
Out of our ABC News investigation this morning into Joe Biden's son Hunter and questions about money he made from foreign business dealings while his father was vice president. Our chief national affairs correspondent Tom Yamas traveled to Ukraine to try to get some answers. And Tom, what did you find?
Dave, good morning to you. This is actually an issue Joe Biden has been dealing with since 2014, but it's come up again because he's now running for president. Republicans, including President Trump, are trying to hammer Biden over this. At issue was Hunter Biden profiting off his dad's work as vice president, and did Joe Biden allow it? We're talking about millions of dollars in at least 2 countries. Mr. Vice President, Tom Yamas with ABC News. How you doing? Got a quick question for you. It's a question we tried to ask repeatedly. Can we ask you about Ukraine and China? But kept getting blocked. Questions about foreign deals his son Hunter Biden pursued.
My father, Joe Biden.
In countries where Joe Biden was working as America's top diplomat. In 2014, Ukrainians, sick of corruption, revolted. Vice President Joe Biden went to Kiev to help the new government.
You have to fight the cancer of corruption.
But then, something strange happened. Just 3 weeks later, a Ukrainian natural gas company, Burisma, accused of corruption, appoints Hunter Biden, seen here in their promotional videos, to their board of directors, paying his firm more than $1 million a year. Hunter, a lawyer who had just been discharged from the Navy Reserves for testing positive for cocaine.
Mr. Hunter Biden.
He had served on other boards, but had no known experience in Ukraine or natural gas. We went to Kiev and found even among Joe Biden's supporters in Ukraine, Hunter's hiring was troubling. How do you judge what Hunter Biden was doing?
I think that Hunter Biden did a very bad thing, and he was very wrong. He allowed his name to be abused.
And Ukraine wasn't the only country where Hunter Biden's business and his father's diplomacy as vice president intersected. It also happened in China. This video shows Chinese diplomats greeting Vice President Biden as he arrived in Beijing in December of 2013. Right by his side, his son Hunter. Less than 2 weeks later, Hunter's firm had new business, creating an investment fund in China involving the government-controlled Bank of China. With reports, they hope to raise $1.5 billion. Hunter still plays a role in the fund. His lawyer says his stake is worth about $500,000. Both Hunter and his lawyers say he never discussed any of his overseas work with his father. But even a critic of the current president and his children's business dealings says this.
He should have encouraged his son to not take these positions.
Biden's campaign team told us that the vice president acted at all times in a manner consistent with well-established executive branch ethics standards. One person who did not want to talk about it, Joe Biden. Mr. Vice President, what's your take on that? Was there a conflict of interest there? Was there a clear conflict of interest? Now, in response to our questions, the Biden campaign, for the first time, is announcing if he's elected, he will invoke a new ethics policy on his first day in office that would empower White House lawyers to monitor for any types of conflicts of interest. Now, Hunter Biden did not want to comment on camera. He says he was brought into Burisma, that Ukrainian company that was facing the corruption charges, to help with its transparency and corporate responsibility. So far, no charges have been brought against Burisma so far.
But these questions aren't going to go away, so in the meantime, is he still on the board for that company in Ukraine?
It's a good question, David. So the same month Joe Biden announces he's going to run for president, Hunter Biden tells us his term on the board expired. He says that the current political climate, he's decided not to renew.
All right. Tom Yamas investigating this morning. Thanks, Tom.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show how...
So there you have it, fam. As you can see, Trump's son, who had no experience, who got kicked out of the Navy Reserve for testing positive for cocaine, which, let me say, I was in the military. And if I got kicked out the military, I got honorably discharged. But if I got kicked out of the military for testing positive for any kind of drug, my life would be ruined. I wouldn't be able to then turn around. I would barely be able to get a job at McDonald's, or I would be lucky to get a job at McDonald's, let alone turn around and be on the board of directors and have these million-dollar deals with corporations. But again, such is the life of white privilege, where you can go, you can take your son to different countries, you're the vice president, whatever, you can threaten other countries' aid and stuff if they don't give your son, your child, different positions. Because we can see just from that ABC News report that if this was a total hoax, this was a total baseless conspiracy, why would someone like ABC even report on that? Apparently, it's not a baseless conspiracy. There's some validity to that. And that's what's not being talked about with this Trump thing. And again, I'm not defending Trump. I've called Trump a white supremacist in multiple previous videos. So I'm not defending Trump. I don't know if he really did something or not. And also, I will add in, Trump's children have gotten a lot of positions that they aren't qualified for since he's been president. You know, Trump and Ivanka getting White House cabinet positions and all of this stuff. So plenty of people. Trump is not innocent of these things he's so-called looking into Biden for. But again, this is why I'm bringing it back to the fact that black people, this is political theater. Whether or not Trump did something, whether or not he gets impeached, and also keep in mind, even if he does get impeached, that doesn't mean that he's going to get removed from office. President Clinton got impeached, but he didn't get removed from office. So just because Trump gets impeached does not mean that he will be removed from office. So again, black people, do not let the Democrats use this to try to take us off our reparations momentum. We don't care whether or not Trump gets impeached, whether or not he gets removed from office. All we care about is our black agenda, whether that means allowing Trump to get reelected if he's still in office, or if Pence is in office because Trump got taken out of office, letting Pence or the next Republican win, or whoever. It doesn't matter to us. If we don't get an agenda, we are not voting, and we will watch this country burn. End of story. Do not allow the Democrats to distract from the real issue, because they're not talking about the open display of white supremacy, the open example of white supremacy that Biden and his son displayed by being able to go over different countries and do things that black people cannot do. It's a living example of privilege, and white privilege in particular. But nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about Biden and his potential corruption. They just want you to believe that it's totally fabricated, it's totally unbelievable. And again, that does not mean that Trump's innocent. But what it does mean is that we do not need to be distracted, because this just has a funny feeling about it. And we should have learned our lesson from the 2-year Russia scandal, that the Democrats are more concerned with political theater in the age of Trump than actually doing things to help his constituents, especially its black constituents. So anyway, fam, that's another video. Like, share, subscribe. Peace.